Hey there, and welcome to the channel. I'm Roger Burnley. If this is your first time, please subscribe and share it with others. You were born into the world to do something wonderful. You were born into the world to accomplish something and to contribute to the world in terms of its evolution. That is why you were born. And you may not have believed that fully, as I didn't. And it is our self-judgment that always holds us back from achieving the kind of success and prosperity and happiness that we could have. Because we are given something unique to bring to the world. But we also come into the world with programming that tells us it couldn't possibly be us. And then we will continue to live that and reinforce it in ourselves and then pass it on to others as well. Because we're all meant to be an example for whoever might come into the world later. And I can tell you this because this is what I have done, and I was confronted with it yesterday. Nothing is happening accidentally in your life or in our world. We just figure it out as we live. And yesterday I was on Facebook and a memory came up of a channeling session that I had in 2022. And I listened to it, and it was kind of surprising to me because it explained so much that I didn't remember. It explained why the work that I had received from Wilhelm, why it worked, why it was giving people the results that they wanted in terms of owning themselves and understanding who they are. But I had judgment on that. See, because when I started doing this in 1989, I was doing it just automatic writing. That's all I was doing, and it was just for myself because I wanted help like we all do. And we will find different ways of achieving that, whichever way that might we feel that's going to give us a result. And that's what I did. And I did it every single day. I didn't even know why I was doing that at first, except I did know it was changing me, but then I also hid it because I didn't want to be judged. This was something that maybe society wasn't going to accept or it wasn't going to be okay. So I didn't want to be judged, so I'm not going to tell anyone. And then it started being exposed. And then I said, okay, now I have to do it. Now I've got to show others what this is. But I'm still with my damaged self saying, no, I can't do that. And then you start to do self-sabotage as well, when you can't own who you are, and then you look at your life and go, what happened? And that's what I had to see. When I listened to that session, I saw my judgment come up again because I thought, why didn't I know? Why couldn't I have done more? And in 2021, I was told through Wilhelm, and this is just the way that my life operated, I was told that I had something that could help so many people because we were going to be moving through a big change in our world. We move through changes in our world all the time. Over centuries we've done this, but this was a very different time and we've all felt it, and it felt a little chaotic and all of that, and we all felt stress. We all felt, what is happening? Who am I supposed to be? Where am I going? Why does the world look this way? And it's because we are each meant to remember who we are, remember our worth and value. And I had been given that information, but I couldn't accept it because it felt too big. You may have done that. It felt like it couldn't possibly be me. I've always wanted people to know who they are. From a young child, I had this desire to see people happy and prosperous and a much better world. I didn't know why I was that way, but I was always that way. In every single career that I ever had, that is who I was. But that also wasn't acceptable. People would tell me, think something was wrong with me because I felt that way. I had judgment from everywhere, even my family or friends. Why are you like this? I couldn't tell you, but I knew I was supposed to do it. But I doubted myself. I had more dark nights of the soul than anyone can possibly imagine. I went through more tragedies and difficulties and illnesses and things that I can't even begin to enumerate right now. They, but it doesn't matter, because what happened was what I discovered. All of it was because I was not willing to accept myself. I was not willing to take that journey and to accept what was happening and what I was given, because I judged it. It was my judgment, because no one should be doing this. That's how it felt. And also, I didn't do it like anyone else. That's the other thing you will discover. You are not supposed to be anyone else. You are meant to be yourself. That is why you were born. And it is a journey. It's a journey that we each take. It's a journey that our world takes as well. We evolve as the world does. And the world cannot evolve and go to a higher state of understanding or consciousness unless we become willing to do that within ourselves. It is never about anyone else. And that's been a really hard lesson for me. And I don't ever want anyone to move through that. It's just something that we're all come to this awareness eventually, that when we can accept ourselves and love ourselves, things change. The other thing you will discover, and this is what came through all the work, there is an organization in our universe. There is order, and we are energy, and we are directing it, and we do it with our thoughts. We do it with how we choose to think in every moment, but we're not always aware of that. And in that session, I heard it again, even though I wasn't always doing it. We don't always get there. It's a continual process. And then when you become so different, that can be really challenging, and that's what happened for me. To discover that I was given this philosophy for this time in our world that could have more people understand who they were and live better lives, that was, again, a bridge too far. And then I hid from myself because I'm introverted. And that's, you'll hear in that session as well, I was introverted and I didn't want to talk. And in 2021, when I was told I had to start channeling, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want people judging me in that way. And then more information came through. And I said, why would I want to do this? And Wilhelm clearly said, your world is going to move through a big change, and there are going to be many people who will not know who they are, who will forget their worth and their value, and I had received that information. And because of what I've moved through, and because I experienced the healing in so many different ways, especially physically and mentally, then I had that information to provide to others. But my programming said, no, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe that shouldn't be me. You might have done that. There's a process that we move through every single day, and it's one of accepting who we become. We become more as we decide that we're going to do that. And sometimes it's a challenge. It takes courage to be yourself. It takes courage to become yourself because you're not like anyone else. And this is that phrase that from Carl Jung, and this is the other thing. Wilhelm started showing how Carl Jung was a great influence in this work. And I couldn't have known that because we're talking about synchronicity, and we discover different things at different times. And that's what came through in Wilhelm's work. And you'll see it because today, on the 20th, which is a new moon, which I couldn't have known any of this stuff. I never studied astrology, but there is an organization of energy. It never has anything to do with that. And we each are energy. And when we came into the world, we had a unique DNA, energetic again. And so it gets activated as things change. You could be feeling right now that now is the day that you want to start accepting yourself. And that is your reward. Because that is also the any advice message that I have up today that I put up a few days ago. You might accept your rewards today. That means that you decide to take the step to own yourself and discover your brilliance and discover what's within you. There's not a single person who doesn't have that, except we have prior programming that has told us it's not us. And that's never true either. And so as we evolve as a society, as a civilization, we're meant to break the limitations, move through the barriers that were old, because they're always old, no matter when we live. And this is the time we were meant to do it. Our world is moving through a transition that will cause it to become great if we decide that we're going to become great ourselves. And that's what this work was. And as I was hiding from this forever, the universe had another clever plan. They said, no, you can no longer do that. So on the 29th of December, I'm going to be speaking on Coast to Coast. I've done this before, but this one is going to be a little different. And so on Coast it's Coast to Coast AM with George Noory. That's what I'm going to be on. And I'm looking at, I did my show prep yesterday, and I'm looking at the email, and it's saying, seen by millions over these every week. And I'm like, really? Am I going to be heard by millions? That was something, because I was hiding. You may have done that. We get afraid to become too big. We get programmed to stay small. And I never want to see anyone do that. I never want to see that. What I did was I put out an offer. I said, and I needed to explain why this worked, because you'll see this. In 2021, when I put people through this program, I gave them 31 lessons that came from the Wilhelm's work, just 31. And they changed so quickly that it just floored me. And because I couldn't accept that, I went into self-sabotage again. Because I thought, I couldn't have done this, and I didn't do it. All I did was bring the information. I received the information. I used it. I lived it. So I do know what can be accomplished. And this is why I can say there is no reason for anyone not to become their full, authentic, wonderful, abundant self. It is a process. My life was meant to live what I did, to bring the process through so that you could have it, or that our world could have it. But again, that felt too big. I'm not going to be able to remain there. That's hidden again. And that is the programming that holds us back. And so I want you to have the gifts, and then I'll show you something else. We will doubt ourselves always because we don't know what we can do. When Wilhelm said, if you look at 2024, the messages on that, on the specific days, they said you will see an order. And I went to look at 2024 of this date, December 20th, and it says your rewards. That was about accepting who we are. But we don't always do that. And so let's go another year before we can kind of understand that. And then I looked at the next day. And the next day say, now you will accept even more of yourself today. That came through in 2024. Then I looked at 2023 and it said, now you'll have your abundance. Because see, that again is an energy that comes about when we decide that we're going to own who we are. And this is a time in our world where it's far more important for more people to understand their importance and begin to accept that and live the lives that they really want to have. We all come in with programming that tells us we can't. We all come in with trauma that we have inherited, that we brought with us from our ancestors, our families, or whatever it might have been. But we have the ability to change it because it changes in our consciousness. And this is what Wilhelm's work was. I could not have known that because I had to live it. But then it was revealed that this was the first verified consciousness-raising system created in history. And I put those words away as well, because I said, how could that have happened? You may have done that. We're each meant to do something that would cause our lives to become what they could be and also contribute to our world. There are no exceptions to that, except sometimes we will make ourselves the exception because we practice self-judgment. we can give that up and move beyond it. And I hope you do that today. And I'm going to give you that information so you can look at it for yourself and see the process that we move through to come to ownership and living the lives we're meant to have. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you real soon.